My wife died 3 years ago. Last night, she unlocked the door. There's a specific kind of quiet that settles into a house at 2 in the morning. It's not really silence. It's the hum of the refrigerator, the tick of the heat coming on, the small sounds your own body makes when there's nothing else to cover them up. I'd gotten used to that quiet over the last 3 years. I'd come to live inside it. That night, I was doing what I did most nights. I was sitting on the couch with my laptop balanced on my knees, watching old videos of my wife. Her name was Emma. She died 3 years ago in a car crash on Route 9, about a mile from our house, on a Tuesday in October when the roads were slick with the first cold rain of the season. I wasn't with her. I've spent 1,000 nights wishing I had been, because then maybe I'd have seen the headlights, or grabbed the wheel, or done something, anything. Instead, I was home grading papers, and a police officer knocked on the door at 9:40 in the evening, and after that, nothing in my life ever fit right again. The video I was watching was from a trip we took to Maine. Emma was on a dock, laughing at something I'd said behind the camera, her hair coming loose from a clip, the water going gold behind her. She turned to the lens and rolled her eyes and said, "Are you still filming? Daniel, put it away." I knew the line by heart. I'd watched it so many times, the words came out of my own mouth a half second before hers did. That's how alone I'd gotten. I was lip-syncing my dead wife's words to an empty room. My sister Sarah told me this wasn't healthy. She told me a lot of things. She told me I should sell the house, that I was building a shrine, that I needed to talk to somebody who had letters after their name. My best friend Mark told me to take it slow, that grief had no timeline, that I should do whatever I needed to do. I liked Mark's advice better. It let me stay exactly where I was. So there I sat. The video ended and looped back to the start, Emma's laugh starting over again, fresh, like it had never stopped. I reached to pause it, and that's when I heard it. The deadbolt on the front door turned. I want you to understand what that sound is when you live alone. It's not a creak or a settling or some noise the house makes on its own. A deadbolt is a deliberate thing. It needs a hand. It needs a key. I heard the brass tumble over with that solid, heavy click I'd heard 10,000 times, the click of someone coming home, and my whole body went cold and still. The clock on the laptop said 2:17 a.m. I didn't move. I told myself I'd imagined it. I told myself it was the heat or the wind or my own tired brain playing tricks. But then I heard the knob turn. Slow, and the hinges let out that low groan they always made because I'd never gotten around to oiling them, and the front door swung open into my living room. And Emma was standing there. I need to be careful telling this part because I've gone over it so many times since that I'm afraid I'll smooth it out, make it neater than it was. So let me give it to you the way it hit me, all at once and wrong. She was soaked. Water ran off her like she'd just climbed out of a river, dripping onto the hardwood, a dark stain spreading around her bare feet. Her hair was plastered to her face. She was wearing the gray sweater she'd had on the night she died, the one the funeral home never gave back, and it clung to her, heavy and dark. Her skin was the color of paper, and her eyes were too wide, open way past natural, fixed on me like she was drowning and I was the only thing above the surface. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't make a sound. The laptop slid off my knees and hit the cushion, and Emma's recorded laugh kept playing out of it, tinny and bright, while the real thing, or whatever this was, stood dripping in my doorway in the dead middle of the night. I knew she was dead. I had identified her body. I had picked the casket. I had watched it go into the ground on a gray afternoon while Mark stood next to me with his hand on my shoulder. There was no version of the world where Emma could be standing in my living room. And yet, there she was, close enough that I could see her chest wasn't moving, that she wasn't breathing at all, that the water kept coming off her like it had nowhere else to go. I opened my mouth. I think I said her name. I'm not sure any sound came out. She lifted her head a little, her lips parted, and when she spoke, it wasn't her voice exactly, not the warm voice from the video that was still playing 6 feet away. It was lower than that, strained, like it cost her something to push the words out across whatever distance she'd crossed to reach me. "Run, Dan." I just stared at her. "He's coming," she whispered. And the smell hit me then, rolling across the room. Rain. Cold October rain. And underneath it, sharp and chemical and unmistakable, the smell of gasoline. I didn't run. That's the part I keep coming back to, the part that makes me feel like a coward and a fool in equal measure. My wife came back from the dead and told me to run, and I just stood there in my socks on the cold kitchen tile, holding the edge of the counter like the floor might tilt out from under me. I didn't move because I didn't believe it. Or maybe I believed it too much. I don't know how to explain the difference. There's a place your mind goes when something impossible is standing in front of you, a kind of soft static. And in that static, I told myself a story. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I'd been drinking, even though I hadn't, not that night. I told myself a man who watches videos of his dead wife at 2 in the morning is exactly the kind of man who sees her in the doorway. She held my eyes a second longer. There was something in her face I've spent 3 years trying not to think about. Not fear for herself, fear for me. The kind of look you give someone right before you lose sight of them in a crowd. Then she was just gone. No flicker, no fade like in the movies. One blink she was there, and the next, the doorway held nothing but the dark of the front hall and the streetlight buzzing through the little window beside it. The door was shut, locked even. I checked. The chain was off, the way I'd left it, but the deadbolt was thrown. The smell stayed the longest, rain and gasoline, thick enough that I covered my mouth. I went around opening windows like I'd burned something on the stove. The October air came in cold and clean, and after a while, the smell thinned out, and then it was gone too. And I was alone in my house at 2:30 in the morning, with the laptop still glowing on the kitchen island. On the screen, Emma was laughing at something off camera. The audio had looped back to the beginning. I closed it. I couldn't look at her face anymore, not the recorded one, and not the one I'd just imagined, because that's what I'd decided it was by then. Imagined. A breakdown. The grief finally cracking through the floor of me the way Sarah always warned me it would. I should tell you about Sarah. My sister is 2 years older than me, and she has spent most of those 2 years convinced she knows better, which is annoying, mostly because she usually does. After Emma died, she practically moved in for a while. She made casseroles I didn't eat. She found me a therapist I went to twice. She is the only person on this earth who has looked me in the eye and said the thing nobody else would say, which is that I wasn't getting better, I was getting worse, and that the house was eating me alive. So, I called her. It was almost 3. She answered on the 4th ring with her voice furred over with sleep, and the first thing she said was my name, like a question. And the second thing she said was, "What's wrong? What happened?" Because that's the only reason anybody calls at 3 in the morning. I told her I'd had a bad night. I told her I thought I'd seen Emma. There was a long quiet on the line. I could hear her sitting up, hear the sheets, hear her reaching for the lamp. When she finally spoke, her voice was careful in a way that made me feel like a child who'd come in from a nightmare. "Danny," she said. "Where are you right now?" "In the kitchen." "Were you watching the videos again?" I didn't answer, which was an answer. "Okay," she said, and I heard her breathe out. "Okay, listen to me. You scared me. I thought somebody was hurt. You're okay. You had a nightmare. You probably weren't even all the way asleep. That happens. That's a real thing. It's got a name. It happens to people who don't sleep enough, and you don't sleep at all." I was awake, Sarah. I was standing up. I wasn't in bed. You can be awake and still be dreaming. That's the whole point. That's exactly what it is. Her voice climbed a little. I could hear the fear underneath the reasonableness, and the fear was sharper than the reasonableness. And that's the thing I latched onto. Because if she was scared, then it wasn't real. It was just her brother losing his mind. I have been telling you. For months, I have been telling you. You cannot keep living in that house. You can't keep sitting in the dark with her face on a screen. It is not grieving, Danny. It's the opposite of grieving. You're keeping the wound open on purpose. I know how it sounds.
Do you? Because you called me to tell me you saw your dead wife, and you don't sound surprised. You sound like you're trying to decide if you believe it. That's what scares me. That's the part. She wasn't wrong. That was the part that scared me too. She kept going. She had a whole speech ready. She'd clearly had it ready for a while, just waiting for an excuse. Sell the house. Take the leave the school keeps offering. Come stay with her and Tom for a month. Sleep in a room that didn't have Emma in the walls. See somebody who could actually help. And the worst thing about all of it was how much sense it made. It made so much sense that I could feel myself wanting to lie down inside it, the way you want to lie down in fresh snow, even though it'll kill you. "There's a prescription," she said. "The Ambien. Did you ever fill the Ambien?" "It's in the cabinet." "Take one. Take one right now while I'm on the phone. Go get a glass of water and go to bed. And in the morning, this is going to feel like exactly what it is, okay? Promise me." I told her I promised. I want to be honest with you, because there's no point in any of this if I'm not. I did go get the glass of water. I did open the cabinet. The orange bottle was right there where it had been for 3 years, untouched, the label faded. I held it in my hand, and I stood in the kitchen with the lights off, and I didn't take one. I poured the water out in the sink, and I went and sat back down on the couch, and I waited for morning. Like an idiot. Because part of me thought she might come back, and I didn't want to be unconscious if she did. She didn't come back. Of course she didn't. The sun came up, gray and ordinary. Trash truck out on the street, the neighbor's dog, all the normal sounds of a Tuesday. And in the daylight, Sarah was right. It did feel like a different thing. It felt like something I could fold up and put away. I made coffee. I burned an egg. I sat at the kitchen table where Emma used to do the crossword, and I told myself I was a man who'd had a hard night. That's all. But there was a thread loose, and I couldn't stop pulling at it. "Run, Dan. He's coming." He, not it, not a flood, not a fire, not a thing. He, a person. And the longer I sat there, the more that one word dug into me. If you're going to hallucinate your dead wife, fine. Your grief invents a ghost. I understand that. The brain is a liar and it loves you, and it'll do anything to give you 5 more minutes. But why would my own grief warn me about a man? What man? There wasn't a man in my life. There was Sarah, 2 hours away. There was Mark, next door. I told myself I was being insane. I cleaned the kitchen to prove I wasn't. And then, around 10 o'clock, with no real plan, I opened my laptop and I typed Emma's name into the search bar along with the word crash and the year, and I sat there while the little wheels spun. I'd never done this before. That's the thing I need you to understand. In 3 years, I had never once looked it up. I lived inside that accident. I replayed it every night, but I'd never read about it because Mark had handled all of it. Mark was the one who'd called me from the hospital.
Mark was the one who sat with me in those plastic chairs while a doctor said words that didn't connect to anything. Mark was the one who dealt with the police, the insurance, the lawyer, the whole machinery of it, because I couldn't. I literally could not. He told me what happened so I would never have to find out for myself, and I was grateful. God, I was grateful. The first article came up, local paper. A short one, just a few paragraphs, the kind they write for people who aren't famous. Woman, 34, killed in collision on Route 9. I read it 3 times. It said a vehicle had crossed the center line. It said the other driver had been treated and released. It said the cause was under investigation. And then there was a follow-up piece from a few weeks later, and that one had a name in it. A kid, 19, and the word alcohol. And I felt this sick, cold satisfaction reading it, because this was the story. This was the boy I had hated in the dark for 3 years. This was the drunk 19-year-old who took everything from me. Tyler Reyes, that was his name. Except that wasn't the name Mark had told me.
I sat very still. I want to describe this carefully because it happened slowly. It wasn't a thunderclap. It was more like when you reach for the next stair in the dark and your foot comes down on flat floor. That lurch in your stomach. That wrongness before your brain even catches up. Mark had told me the kid's name 100 times. We'd said it together, cursing him, over beers, over the years. Devin. The kid's name was Devin Powell. Mark had said it so many times it was carved into me. Devin Powell got 5 years. Devin Powell will be in prison until you're 40. I remember the relief I felt the night Mark told me the sentence had come down. I remember crying at this kitchen table, and Mark putting his hand on the back of my neck and saying, "It's done, buddy. He's gone. He's going to rot." The name on my screen was Tyler Reyes. I told myself the paper got it wrong. Papers get things wrong all the time. I told myself Mark must have mixed it up, said the wrong name once, and I just remembered it that way. Memory's a liar. I already knew that. I'd learned that the hard way last night. There were a dozen explanations, and every single one of them was reasonable, and I grabbed for all of them at once. So I called the courthouse. It took me 40 minutes to get to a human being. I told the woman I was looking for case records related to a traffic fatality, gave her the date, gave her Emma's name. I heard her typing. I heard her go quiet in that way people go quiet when they're reading something. "And you said the defendant's name was Powell?" "Devin Powell, yes." More typing. "I'm not finding anyone by that name connected to this. The driver in this incident was a Tyler Reyes." "Right," I said. My voice came out strange. "Reyes, the article. So what was his sentence?" A pause. "Sir, there wasn't a sentence. There were no charges filed." I think I laughed. It just came out of me, this little broken sound. "No, that's not. He was drunk. He crossed the line and he killed my wife. He got 5 years. I'm only seeing what's in front of me, sir, and I'm telling you. No charges were filed in this matter. The investigation found the at-fault vehicle had a mechanical failure. There was a finding of brake failure. The other driver was cited for crossing the line, but not at the level that would normally bring charges, and the mechanical issue took precedence. I don't remember hanging up. I just remember the phone in my hand, and the kitchen so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming, and that word sitting in the middle of everything. Brake failure. I had been told a story. Mark had told me that story. Mark had sat across from me at the diner the morning after the funeral, his hands wrapped around a coffee mug, and he had said the kid's name was Tyler, and he was 17, and he had been drinking at a party, and he ran the red, and he got 5 years, and it would never be enough. I had repeated those words to my parents. I had repeated them to my students when they asked why I was out. I had built my whole grief around them, and not one piece of it was real. I spent the rest of that day doing nothing useful. I sat in Emma's chair by the window.
I told myself there were explanations. Clerical errors happen. Records get mixed up. Maybe the woman on the phone pulled the wrong file. But every time I tried to make the lie hold together, it slipped out of my hands. Because I kept seeing Mark's face, that careful, kind face, telling me a name that was never in any record. I didn't eat. The light went gold, then gray, then gone. I didn't turn on a single lamp. I just sat there as the room filled up with dark, and somewhere in the back of my head, I made a decision I didn't say out loud. I was going to be awake when it happened again. I moved to the couch in the living room around 11. I had a clear view of the front door from there, the deadbolt, the chain I never used. I put my phone face down on the coffee table. I didn't watch the videos. I didn't want her face on the screen. I wanted her face in the room. That's an awful thing to admit, but it's the truth. I sat there in the dark, wanting my dead wife to walk through the door, and I was terrified she would. Time does strange things when you're waiting like that. It stretches and folds. I'd look at my phone and it would say 12:40, and then I'd feel like an hour had passed and it would say 12:48. The house made all its little sounds, the settling, the tick of the heat, a car going by outside, headlights sweeping across the ceiling, gone. I kept my eyes on that deadbolt until they ached. At some point I stopped being afraid and started being something else. Hopeful. That's the word, as ugly as it is. I caught myself leaning forward. I caught myself whispering her name once, just once, into the dark. Emma. Like a kid testing whether a prayer works. And then it was 2:16, and I knew. I don't know how, but I knew. I sat up straight. My whole body went tight, the way it does right before you hit the bottom step you didn't know was there. The air in the room changed. It got heavier and colder all at once, and underneath the cold, I smelled it before I heard anything. Rain, wet asphalt, and under that, faint and sharp, gasoline. The deadbolt turned. I watched it happen. Nobody touched it. The little brass lever rotated, slow and smooth, and the bolt slid back into the door with that solid sound it makes, a sound I'd heard 10,000 times coming home from work. Then the knob turned. Then the door swung open into the dark. She was there. She was more there than the night before. The first time she'd been like a photograph left out in the rain, soft at the edges, like I could have put my hand through her. This time, she had weight to her. Her hair was soaked and stuck to the side of her face. Her dress, the gray one, the one we buried her in, clung to her and dripped onto the floor, and I could see the water spreading dark across the wood, a real puddle, a thing I could have touched. Her skin was the color of the inside of a shell, and her eyes. Her eyes were on me, and they were full of something so heavy I couldn't look straight into them. I stood up. My legs barely held. Emma, I said. Em, it's me. I'm here. I'm listening, okay? I'm listening this time. She didn't speak. The night before, she'd told me to run, and I hadn't moved, and maybe she knew words were wasted on me. So she did something else. She lifted her arm. The motion was wrong somehow, too slow, like she was moving through water that wasn't there. And she pointed past me, across the room, toward the hallway, toward the door under the stairs, the basement. What's down there? My voice cracked in half. Emma, what's in the basement? She just kept pointing, and her face, God, her face. It wasn't angry. It wasn't scary, not in the way you'd think. It was sad. It was the saddest thing I have ever seen, like she was apologizing to me for what she was making me go do. Her mouth moved, no sound, and I think the shape it made was, please. And then she was gone. Not a fade this time, she was just there. And then the doorway was empty and dark, and the front door stood open to the cold, and the only thing left was the puddle on the floor and that smell hanging in the air like the moment after a scream. I stood there a long time. The clock on the wall said 2:19. My heart was going so hard I could feel it in my teeth. That basement. We almost never went down there. Emma used to do laundry down there, and I'd hauled boxes up and down those stairs when we moved in. But after she died, I just stopped. I had a stacked washer-dryer put in the upstairs hall closet so I wouldn't have to. I told myself it was convenience. The truth is, I couldn't stand to go down to where the dark was, where her voice still lived in the walls. I went anyway. I opened the basement door, and the cold came up the stairs to meet me like something breathing. The bulb at the bottom was burned out, so I used my phone, that thin little circle of light shaking in my hand. Everything was exactly how we'd left it. Her old gardening boots by the dryer, a shelf of paint cans gone solid, the folding table where she used to sort socks, still holding a single dryer sheet that had turned brittle and yellow. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and waited for her to appear and point me somewhere else. She didn't. Whatever she was, she'd brought me this far, and now it was on me. So I looked. I don't know what I was looking for exactly. I ran my light along the walls. Concrete mostly, a water heater, the breaker box. And then, over in the far corner, behind where the old shelving unit sat, I saw it. The wood paneling Emma's dad had put up years back to make the corner look finished. One section of it didn't sit flush. There was a gap, maybe a 1/4 inch, where it bowed away from the wall. I'd walked past that corner 100 times when she was alive. I never once noticed it. I pulled the shelf out of the way. The whole thing screeched across the floor, and the sound went right up my spine. Then I got my fingers into that gap, and the panel came loose easy. Too easy. Like it had been opened and closed a lot. Behind it, there was a hollow in the wall, a space somebody had cut and never told me about. And sitting in that hollow was a small, fireproof safe. Gray, heavy-looking, the kind you'd buy to keep documents in. I'd never seen it before in my life. My hands were shaking so bad I almost couldn't work the dial. It was a combination lock, the old kind with the spinning numbers, and I sat there in the dark thinking there's no way, I'll never get this. And then a memory surfaced that I'd buried so deep I didn't know I still had it. Years ago, before any of this, Emma, laughing at the kitchen table, telling me she used the same number for everything because she couldn't remember anything else. Her grandmother's birthday, 11/9/51. I spun it in. The handle turned. The door swung open, and the smell that came out of there was paper and something faintly chemical, plastic and old ink. Inside, there was a stack of envelopes held together with a rubber band that had half rotted through. A cheap black phone, the kind you buy at a gas station, dead, the screen scratched, and a small blue flash drive. I took the letters out first. I knew the handwriting before I'd read a single word. I'd seen it on birthday cards, on the little notes he left on my porch when he dropped off soup after the funeral. Hang in there, buddy. Call me anytime. Mark's handwriting. That same slanted print, those same hard little capital letters. I sat down right there on the cold floor because my legs stopped wanting to hold me. The first letter was almost sweet. That was the worst part. It read like a man in love. He wrote about the way she laughed at something during a staff meeting, how he thought about it for days. He wrote that she was the only person who ever really saw him. He signed it with just his initial and a stupid little drawing of a sun. The next ones got worse. Closer together in time, you could tell because he kept referencing things she must have said back. He kept apologizing for making her uncomfortable, and then, in the very next line, telling her he knew she felt it too. He knew it, she was just scared. He wrote about watching our house. He actually wrote that. He said he liked seeing the kitchen light come on in the morning because it meant she was awake. He said sometimes he sat in his car across the street just to feel close to her. He lived 4 doors down. He waved at me when I checked the mail. He came to my Sunday dinners and complimented my cooking and asked how I was holding up. His hand warm on my shoulder, his eyes wet with what I thought was grief. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. There was one where he was angry, where the pen had pressed so hard into the paper it tore in places. And he wrote that she was being cruel, that she was leading him on by being kind, that she couldn't keep doing this to him. There was one where he begged. There was one where he said he'd thought about ending it, himself, all of it, and that it would be her fault. And then there was the last one. It was shorter than the others. The handwriting was calm. That was somehow the most frightening thing of all, how steady it was, how neat. He wrote that he understood now, that he'd been patient and patience hadn't worked. He wrote that he wasn't going to keep humiliating himself. And then, near the bottom, in that careful, even print, he wrote, "I gave you every chance. If you won't leave him, I'll make you leave." There was no date on it, but I didn't need one. I knew when it was written. I knew it in my body before my mind would say it. 2 weeks. 2 weeks before her brakes failed on the county road and she went through the guardrail and down into the dark and the rain. And I was home, on the couch, watching some show I can't even remember now, waiting for her to walk through the door. She never told me. She never said a word. I went back through every conversation we'd had in those last weeks, looking for the crack, the thing I should have caught. There'd been a night she'd seemed off, quiet, jumpy when her phone buzzed. I'd asked her if everything was okay, and she'd smiled and said she was just tired, and I believed her, because believing her was easier than the alternative.
I sat there on the basement floor with those letters in my lap for a long time. Long enough that my legs went numb under me. The whole time, one thought kept circling, slow and patient, like something waiting for me to be ready. He came to her funeral. He stood next to me in a black suit and put his hand on my shoulder and told me she was in a better place. He cried. I watched him cry. I think that was the thing that finally moved me. Not rage exactly, something colder than that. A kind of clarity I hadn't felt in 3 years. I called him. My hands were steady, which surprised me. The phone rang twice before he picked up, and his voice came through warm and a little sleepy, the way it always did when I called late. "Dan? You okay, man? It's almost 1. "Yeah," I said. I'm having a rough night. Could you come over? I don't want to be alone right now." There was the smallest pause. If I hadn't been listening for it, I'd have missed it. "Course," he said. "Course, buddy. Give me 10 minutes." I hung up and put the letters in a manila envelope and set it on the kitchen table. Then I sat down across from it and waited. I didn't turn on more lights. I didn't make coffee. I just sat there in the half-dark, listening to the refrigerator hum and to my own heart, which had started to go too fast. I heard his car in the driveway. I heard the door. He has a key, same as I have one to his place, and I heard it turn in the lock, the same way I'd heard the lock turn at 2:17 2 nights in a row, and the sound of it nearly broke something loose in me. He came in, already talking. Hey, look at you, sitting in the dark like a serial killer," he laughed. He came around the corner into the kitchen, and I saw his face, soft with concern, the face I'd trusted with everything. He had a 6-pack in one hand. He'd brought beer. He'd brought beer to comfort me. "You want me to put some lights on? You look like hell, Dan." "Sit down, Mark." Something in my voice made him slow, but he covered it well. He set the beer on the counter and pulled out the chair across from me and sat, and he smiled, and he said, "What's going on? You're scaring me a little." I slid the envelope across the table. He looked at it.
He didn't touch it. I watched his eyes go from the envelope to my face and back, and I watched him do the math, watched him try to find a version of this where it was nothing, where I'd found old tax stuff or a card he'd forgotten about, and I watched him fail to find it. "Open it," I said. "Dan, I don't know what this is." "You do. Open it." He opened it. He's a good actor, Mark. He always has been. He pulled the letters out and unfolded the top one, and his eyes moved across it, and his face did this thing where the concern stayed pasted on a half second too long after the rest of him had already gone somewhere else. And then it dropped, all of it, just slid off his face like water and left something underneath that I had never seen before, something flat and still. He set the letter down. He smoothed it out with 2 fingers, almost gentle. "Where did you find these?" he said. It wasn't a question. "Behind the panel in the basement. She kept them. She kept all of them, Mark." He nodded slowly, like that made sense to him, like that was a detail that fit. He didn't deny it. That was the worst part. I think some piece of me was still waiting for him to laugh and explain, to say these were from years ago, from before she even met me, anything. But he just sat there, nodding at the table. "She told me she'd burned them," he said. "She lied, huh?" He almost smiled. "She was always lying about something. Don't talk about her. I loved her." He looked up at me when he said it, and his eyes were wet, and that was somehow obscene, the tears on him now. "I loved her more than you ever did. You don't even know what you had. You'd come home and sit on that couch, and she'd be dying inside, and you never once saw it. I saw it. I saw all of it. You wrote that you'd make her leave." "I begged her," his voice cracked. "I begged her, Dan. I told her we could go anywhere. I had it all planned. And she laughed at me. Right there in the parking lot at work, she laughed at me and said I needed help. She said she was going to tell you. She was going to ruin everything." The kitchen had gone very quiet. The refrigerator clicked off. I could hear him breathing. "The brakes," I said. I didn't even mean to say it out loud. It just came out of me, small, and it hung there in the air between us. He looked at me, and the wet went out of his eyes, and that flat stillness came back. And he said it like he was reading a grocery list. "It's not hard. You'd be surprised how easy it is. There's a line, you just nick it, just enough. It doesn't go all at once. It goes when you press hard, when you really need it." He swallowed. "It was supposed to look like an accident. It did look like an accident. For 3 years, it looked like an accident, and you sat in this house, and you cried on my shoulder, and I held you, Dan, I held you. Because I thought it was over. I thought we could both just move on. You killed her. You left her alone every night," he said. "I just finished what you started." I came up out of the chair. I don't remember deciding to. I had some idea of getting to the door, getting outside, getting to a neighbor, anything. He moved faster than a man his size had any right to. He caught me before I'd taken 2 steps, and the kitchen tilted, and then I was on the floor with the cold tile against my cheek and his weight on my back, all of it, every pound of him pressing the air out of me. I felt his knee dig into my spine. I felt his hand find the back of my neck and shove my face down so hard I tasted blood. "I'm sorry," he kept saying. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Like that meant anything. Like the word was a thing you could hide behind. I clawed at the floor. My fingers found nothing. A chair leg just out of reach. I stretched for it, and he saw me reaching and laughed, this awful, broken laugh, and pinned my arm against the small of my back until something in my shoulder went bright and wrong. Then I saw the knife. He had it in his other hand. He brought it up where I could see it, turning it so the kitchen light ran down the blade, and I think he wanted me to look at it. I think that was part of it for him. He wanted me to know. "Close your eyes, Dan," he said, almost gentle. "Just close your eyes." I didn't close my eyes. I was looking past him, past his shoulder, down the dark hall toward the front of the house, because I heard it. Over my own ragged breathing and the blood pounding in my ears, I heard that sound I had been waiting 3 years to understand. The lock turning. The deadbolt sliding back, slow, metal on metal. The same small, ordinary sound it had made every night of our marriage when she came home late from work and I was already half asleep. Mark heard it too. I felt him go still on top of me. The knife stopped moving. The front door opened. She came down the hall without a sound. No footsteps, no rush of air. Just Emma, the way she'd been that first night. Pale and soaked through, water running off the ends of her hair and pooling on the floor she used to mop on Sundays. But she wasn't frightened anymore. Her face wasn't wide and panicked the way it had been when she told me to run. She looked calm. She looked like a woman who had finally arrived somewhere she had been trying to get to for a very long time. She was looking at Mark. He twisted around to see what I was seeing, and I felt the knife waver, and I heard him make a sound I had never heard a grown man make. Not a scream, something smaller and worse. A child's sound, the sound you make before you understand you're allowed to be afraid. "No," he said. "No, that's not. You're not." She didn't answer him. She crossed the kitchen the way smoke crosses a room, no part of her seeming to move, and she stopped right beside us, looking down at the back of his head. The smell of her filled the whole house. Rain and gasoline, so thick I could taste it. She reached out. She didn't claw at him. She didn't strike. There was nothing in her face that I would call hate, and somehow that was the most terrible part, because I think hate would have been easier to watch. She just laid her hand on his shoulder, light, the way she used to touch my arm to get my attention in a crowded room. The most ordinary gesture in the world, the kind of touch you don't even notice from someone who loves you. Mark went rigid. The knife dropped out of his hand and skidded under the table. His weight shifted off my back, and I rolled away and scrambled until I hit the cabinets, and I sat there, gasping, and watched him. His eyes were huge. His mouth was working, but nothing came out. He had both hands at his chest now, fingers hooked into his shirt, pulling at it, and his face had gone a color I have never been able to forget. A gray going to white, and the cords stood out in his neck. He made that small child sound again. He tipped sideways. He went down hard against the leg of the table, and the whole thing screeched across the floor. And then he was on his back, staring at the ceiling with his mouth open, and his heels drummed against the tile twice, 3 times, slower, and stopped. And then there was no sound at all, except the rain on the windows. She was still standing there. Her hand was still raised, just slightly, the way you hold it for a second after you've let go of someone. She turned and looked at me. I want to tell you what her face did. I have tried to find the words for 3 years now, and I never get them right. It softened. All of it. Every hard line, every drop of water, every cold thing the night had put into her. It all went soft and warm, and she was just Emma again. My Emma. The woman who left toast crumbs in the butter and laughed too loud at her own jokes and held my face in both her hands on our wedding day like I was something she'd been afraid she would never get to keep. She wasn't afraid for me anymore. That was the thing. The fear was gone. She had done what she came back to do. Her lips moved. No sound came, but I didn't need sound. I had watched her mouth make those 3 words 1,000 times across 1,000 pillows. I love you. I tried to say it back, My throat closed, and what came out wasn't words, it was just air and grief, and I reached for her. I actually reached out across the kitchen floor with my good arm, like a child reaching up to be lifted, and I said, "Don't go, please. Not again. Please don't go again." She smiled at me. And then, the way breath leaves a cold window, she was gone. The smell went with her. One moment the kitchen was full of rain and gasoline, and the next it was just my house. My quiet, ordinary house. The dishwasher humming its low note. The clock on the stove reading 2:49 a.m. I called 911 with a hand that wouldn't stop shaking. I told them my friend had collapsed, that I thought it was his heart, and that was true, every word of it. The operator kept telling me to start chest compressions, and I knelt over Mark on the kitchen floor and pressed down on a chest I had clapped 100 times in the driveway. And I counted out loud the way she told me to. And the whole time I was thinking, you killed her, and I am trying to bring you back. He was already gone. I think I knew that before they did. The paramedics came in their loud boots and their bright vests, and they worked on him for a long time, and then one of them looked up at me with that face they must practice in mirrors, gentle and final, and said they were sorry. Then they saw the knife. It had skidded under the kitchen table when he fell. A short black tactical thing, the kind he probably bought online and told himself was for protection. They asked me about it. They asked me about the cut on my arm, the bruises coming up purple on my throat. I told them everything. I walked them down to the basement and showed them the safe standing open, the letters fanned out where I dropped them, the burner phone, the flash drive. I told them about the brakes. I told them about a teenager who never existed and a sentence that was never handed down. I told them I'd been lied to for 3 years by the man dying on my kitchen floor. I expected them not to believe me. That's the thing nobody tells you about being innocent. You stand there knowing the truth, and you feel like a liar anyway. But the evidence was its own witness. The flash drive had the maintenance logs from Emma's car, doctored, with Mark's fingerprints on the original receipts. The letters were in his handwriting, signed, dated. There was a text thread on the burner phone where he'd written things to her, to Emma, in the weeks before she died. Things I won't repeat because they belong to her and not to me. The county reopened the case. A detective named Reyes sat across from me at my own kitchen table, the same table, and told me that in 20 years she had never seen a man frame a death so carefully. She said it like a compliment to him, and then she caught herself, and she just looked tired. They cleared me. Of course they cleared me. There was nothing to clear. But I sat in that interview room for hours anyway, telling the story, and every time I got to the part about the front door unlocking, I stopped. I told them I heard a noise. I told them Mark looked over his shoulder and just dropped. That part was true too. I left out the rest. How do you put a ghost in a police report? How do you say, my dead wife touched his shoulder and his heart simply quit, the way a clock quits when you stop winding it? I didn't say it because I didn't believe it anymore. Not the way I had that night. Here is the thing I came to understand in the weeks after. In Sarah's spare bedroom, with the floral wallpaper and the bed that was too soft, lying awake while my sister slept down the hall. I started to wonder whether Emma had ever really come home at all.
Because I knew. That's the truth I kept circling like a sore tooth.
3 years ago, before the crash, there were signs. Mark calling the house and hanging up when I answered. The way Emma got quiet when his name came up. A look she gave me one night over dinner, his arm too easy across the back of her chair, like she was asking me a question without words. And I, being who I am, being a man who loves his comfort more than his courage, I looked away. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself Mark was my friend. I poured him another beer. I knew, somewhere down in the basement of myself, behind a panel I never opened. And when she died, I locked that knowing away with everything else, and I called it grief, and I let Mark carry me through the worst of it, let him sit in my living room every week. Let the man who killed my wife teach me how to mourn her. So maybe she never came home. Maybe what unlocked my door at 2:17 in the morning was not Emma at all, but the part of me that had finally had enough of the lie. Maybe I built her out of guilt and rain and the smell of a wreck I never saw. And I sent her down to that basement because some buried piece of me always knew what was inside that safe. Maybe I'm the one who whispered, "Run." I don't know. I'll never know. And I've made a strange and uneasy peace with not knowing, because the alternative is to pick one answer and have to live inside it forever. I sold the house. It went fast, the way houses do when the seller doesn't care about the price. A young couple bought it. They had a baby and a dog, and the woman cried a little when she saw the kitchen. Happy tears. She said she could already see Christmas mornings in it. I didn't tell her what the kitchen had seen. I shook her husband's hand and I gave him the spare keys, all of them, every key I owned, and I drove away, and I didn't look back at the porch where I'd carried Emma over the threshold a lifetime ago. That was 4 months back. I live at Sarah's now while I figure out where a person goes after all of this. She made me start therapy. I fought her on it, the way I fight everyone who tries to help me. And then I went, and I sat in a soft chair, and I cried in front of a stranger for the first time in 3 years. Really cried, the ugly kind. And afterward, I felt like something heavy had been set down. Sarah was right about everything. I should have listened to her years ago. I tell her that now. She just rolls her eyes and makes me coffee. This afternoon, I walked to the park near her house. It's an ordinary little park, a swing set and a slide, and a field where dogs chase tennis balls. I sat on a bench in the late light, and I watched the children play. There was a girl, maybe 5, in a yellow coat, and she kept climbing to the top of the slide and shrieking with joy on the way down, and her father caught her at the bottom every single time. And I sat there, and I let myself imagine the children Emma and I never had. I didn't push the thought away. I just held it, the way you hold a photograph, and I let it hurt, and the hurt felt clean. The breeze came up cold off the field, and under it, faint, so faint I almost lost it in the smell of cut grass and somebody's barbecue down the block. There it was, rain and gasoline. I went very still. I didn't turn around. I want you to understand that I thought about it. I felt the whole weight of 3 years pull at the back of my neck, every cell in me begging me to look, to see her one more time, to keep her here a little longer. But I have spent my whole life refusing to let go of things. I held on to a marriage that was in trouble by looking away from it. I held on to Mark because letting him go meant facing the truth. I held on to a dead woman so hard I conjured her up out of my own broken mind, and it nearly got me killed. For once, just once, I chose to let go. I kept my eyes on the little girl in the yellow coat, climbing up to fly down again. And I said it quietly, just moving my lips, the way she had moved hers across my kitchen floor. Thank you. The cold stayed a moment longer, long enough that I could almost believe a hand had rested, light as breath, on my shoulder. And then it lifted, and it was just October, just wind, just a park full of strangers and their ordinary, precious lives. I stood up. My knees ached. The cut on my arm is healed into a thin white line I'll carry the rest of my days. And I'm glad of it, because some things should leave a mark. I walked out of the park, and I didn't look back. And the smell of rain and gasoline grew thinner with every step until I couldn't find it anymore.
I think she's gone now. Whatever she was. My wife, or my grief, or the small, brave piece of me that finally unlocked the door I'd kept shut for 3 years. I think she's gone now. And I think that's how it's supposed to be. People ask me sometimes, the few who know the whole story, whether I believe it really was her. Sarah asked me, late one night in her kitchen, both of us up because neither of us sleeps right anymore. She asked it carefully, the way she asks me anything that might break me. I told her the truth. I told her I go back and forth. Some days I'm sure it was Emma,
I'm sure she clawed her way back across whatever line we cross when we die, dripping and frightened and full of a love stronger than death, just to stand in my doorway and warn me about the man 4 doors down. Those days I take comfort in it. Those days I let myself believe that the last thing she did, with whatever she had left, was protect me, and that wherever she is now, she's finally able to rest, because she finished the thing she came back to do. But other days, and these are the harder ones, I think she was never anything but me. I think the grief built her, brick by brick, out of everything I refused to look at. I think I knew. I think I always knew, somewhere in the dark behind that loose panel in the deepest part of myself, that Mark looked at my wife the way a starving man looks through a window. I saw the calls. I saw her go quiet. I saw his arm across the back of her chair, and I poured him another beer, and I looked away. Because looking away was the thing I was best at. And when she died, I locked that knowing in a safe inside me, and I spun the dial, and I let the man who killed her teach me how to grieve. On those days, I understand that the ghost wasn't a message from beyond. It was a message from below, from the basement of myself. It was the part of me that had finally had enough, that could no longer stand to watch me weep on the shoulder of a murderer. It put on her face because her face was the only thing I would still listen to. It used the only voice I had never learned to ignore. And it sent me downstairs to open the safe, because that piece of me had always known what was inside. I don't know which is true. I've stopped needing to. Maybe that's its own kind of healing, learning to live in the space between two answers without forcing it shut. The therapist says, grief isn't a problem you solve. She says, it's a country you learn to live in, and the longer you stay, the more of the language you understand. I think she's right. I think I'm learning the words. What I do know is this. For 3 years, I built a shrine out of my pain, and I called it love. I sat in the dark with her face on a screen, and I mouthed her words back to her, and I told myself I was keeping her alive, when really, I was the one being buried. The grief wasn't holding on to her, it was holding on to me. And it would have held me right down into that kitchen floor, with Mark's knee in my spine and his knife catching the light, if something in me, or something of her, hadn't finally turned the lock and walked through the door. She told me to run. That first night, soaked and terrified in my doorway, that was the whole message, and I was too lost to hear it. Run, Dan. Not just from Mark, from the house, from the videos, from the lie I'd married myself to, from the comfortable grave I'd been digging an inch deeper every single night. I didn't run that night, but I'm running now, in my way, slowly, toward something instead of away from it. Sarah's getting a dog next month. She asked me to come pick it out with her, some shelter mutt with 2 big ears, and I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. There's a woman at the grief group I go to on Thursdays, a widow named Claire, who lost her husband to cancer 2 springs ago. And last week we got coffee after. Just coffee. And she laughed at something I said, and I felt a small, warm thing turn over in my chest that I hadn't felt in years. And instead of feeling guilty about it, I let it be what it was. Emma would have hated to see me alone. She used to say it all the time, half joking, that if anything ever happened to her, I'd better not turn into one of those sad men who never opens the curtains. I turned into exactly that man. I'm trying to become someone else now. I kept one thing from the house. Just one. A photograph from that trip to Maine. Emma on the dock with the water going gold behind her, her hair coming loose, caught right in the middle of telling me to put the camera away. It sits on the dresser in Sarah's spare room. I look at it in the morning when I wake up, and I say good morning to her. And then I get up, and I make the bed, and I go out into the day. That's the difference. I used to disappear into her. Now I just say hello, and I leave the room, and I live. I don't smell rain and gasoline anymore. Not in the park, not in the spare room, not anywhere. It faded a little more each week, until one day I realized I hadn't caught it in a long time. And I sat with that, and it didn't frighten me. It felt like a hand letting go of mine, gently. The way you let go of someone's hand when you've walked them as far as you can, and the rest of the path is theirs to walk alone. So whatever she was, I hope she's at peace. And if she was only ever me, then I hope that part of me is at peace too. That frightened, buried thing that loved her enough to risk everything to save us both. It's October again as I write this. The first cold rain came through last night, the kind that makes the roads slick, the kind that took her. I lay awake and listened to it on the window, and I waited to feel afraid, and I didn't. I just listened to the rain, and I thought about a girl in a yellow coat flying down a slide into her father's arms, and I thought about Claire's laugh, and somewhere in there I fell asleep. I dreamed about Emma, not soaked, not pale, not standing in any doorway. Just Emma on the dock in Maine, in the sun, telling me to put the camera away. And in the dream, for the first time, I did. I set it down. I walked out onto the dock, and I sat next to her, and I put my arm around her, and we watched the water go gold together. And neither of us said anything, because nothing needed saying. When I woke up, the rain had stopped. If you've lost someone, and you're sitting in the dark with their face on a screen, mouthing their words back to an empty room, I want you to hear this, because I wish to God somebody had said it to me 3 years ago and made me listen. The dead don't need you to stay in the grave with them. The love isn't in the staying. It never was. Sometimes the bravest, most faithful thing you can do is get up off the floor and open the curtains and walk out into the cold, bright, ordinary morning that they don't get to have anymore. So run, Dan. She told me to, and I finally am.